This is what actually happens when you disconnect your car battery for 30 minutes. And why the results depend entirely on when your car was built. $415. That's the average check engine repair cost, according to CarMD's 2024 data. And it explains why people keep searching for free alternatives. Nearly half of all drivers are ignoring a dashboard warning light right now. And 64 million Americans can't handle an unexpected repair bill without going into debt. So when someone claims that disconnecting the battery clears that annoying light for free, people try it. And here's the thing, this trick actually works, sometimes under specific conditions, on certain vehicles. Understanding exactly when it works, when it fails completely, and when it makes your situation worse is the difference between saving real money and creating a much bigger problem. Today we're breaking down the actual science of what happens inside your car's computer when you cut the power, which cars respond to this technique, which ones ignore it entirely, and why an $80 scanner might be a smarter investment than this free trick everyone keeps recommending. When you disconnect your car's negative battery terminal, you cut power to the engine control unit, and that forces the computer to lose its stored data and snap back to factory default settings. But here's the critical detail that most videos skip over. This only works reliably if your car stores its adaptive parameters in volatile memory, which is basically RAM that needs constant power to hold on to information. Modern ECUs increasingly use non-volatile memory. Think of it like a flash drive that keeps its data even when unplugged. And on vehicles built after 2010, disconnecting the battery may not erase anything meaningful at all. Your ECU stores two types of fuel trim values that matter here. Short-term fuel trim handles immediate real-time adjustments to your air-fuel mixture, and these reset to baseline after disconnection every time. Long-term fuel trim stores accumulated corrections ranging from negative 25% to positive 25%, indexed by engine RPM and load, and this is where things get complicated. On older vehicles, a 10-plus minute disconnection wipes these values clean. On many newer vehicles, long-term fuel trim lives in non-volatile memory and survives battery removal like nothing happened. The standard recommendation calls for 15 to 30 minutes, which is how long residual charge in capacitors takes to dissipate. Speeding up the process means turning on your headlights with the battery disconnected, pressing the brake pedal to drain power faster, or briefly touching the positive and negative cables together. But here's where European luxury owners get bad news. Post-2010 BMWs, Audis, and Mercedes vehicles often ignore battery disconnection entirely when it comes to ECU adaptations. A BMW master technician confirmed that dealer-level tools are required for true ECU resets on most modern BMWs, which means the free trick costs you nothing because it accomplishes nothing. Now let's talk about what that check engine light actually represents, because not all codes respond the same way to clearing. CarMD's 2025 Vehicle Health Index pulled data from 31 million failures, and the numbers tell an interesting story. Catalytic converter replacement tops the expense list at $1,348, followed by oxygen sensors at $254, ignition coils and spark plugs at $400, and mass airflow sensors at $323. Remember when everyone joked about the loose gas cap? Back in 2010, that accounted for 9.2% of all check engine repairs. The 2024 data tells a different story, with loose gas caps dropping out of the top 5 entirely, partly from consumer education and partly from capless fuel systems becoming standard. What matters for understanding resets is that diagnostic trouble codes come in 3 distinct types. Pending codes self-clear after 40 warm-up cycles if the fault doesn't show up again. Stored or active codes illuminate your check engine light and can be cleared with a scanner or battery disconnect. Permanent codes cannot be cleared by any method on Earth, except actually repairing the underlying problem and completing specific drive cycles. And this is where people get themselves in trouble. Clearing codes also resets your emission readiness monitors to not ready status, which means failing your emissions test even if nothing is actually wrong. Restoring those monitors takes 50 to 100 miles of varied driving, so you might clear the light, feel like a genius for a week, and then either watch it come back or fail your inspection anyway. Now, I'm not saying this technique is useless, because there are legitimate situations where a reset actually solves something real. Adaptive learning drift builds up over time as your ECU compensates for changing conditions, and clearing those old values has real benefits after certain repairs. If you've replaced a sensor, cleaned your throttle body, or made modifications to your engine, forcing the ECU to start fresh makes sense, because operating on outdated corrections causes problems. Here's a common example that shows when this helps. You fix a vacuum leak, but the old fuel trim values cause hesitation or surging until the ECU figures out the new conditions, and resetting speeds up that recalibration process. Transmission shift quality also adapts continuously to compensate for manufacturing variations and wear. And a Ford engineer with 19 years of experience cleared up a common misconception about this. Transmissions adapt how long a shift takes, not which gear the transmission shifts into at which speed. Shift schedules come from rear-end ratio and throttle input calculations, not from learning your personal driving style the way people imagine. So after legitimate repairs, a reset genuinely helps your car recalibrate faster. What resets cannot touch includes actual mechanical failures, real sensor failures, physical damage to your exhaust or catalytic converter, and any problem that genuinely exists in your vehicle. If something is actually broken, the code returns within 1 to 3 drive cycles, no matter how many times you clear it. One certified diagnostic technician put it this way: the check engine light probably won't reset itself unless you fix the problem, and a car usually needs 10 to 20 successful cycles before the light stays off permanently. Let's talk about what can go wrong here, because this technique comes with consequences nobody mentions. The obvious stuff hits first, with radio presets, Bluetooth pairings, seat memory positions, and your clock all resetting to defaults. Annoying but survivable. The serious problems start with anti-theft immobilizer systems entering protective modes that prevent the vehicle from starting entirely. A blinking security light means your transponder may need reprogramming. And documented cases show Nissan Muranos, Toyota Camrys, and various European vehicles requiring 10 to 15-minute key and ignition procedures or dealer visits just to get moving again. Your power windows lose their auto up-down express feature and need reinitialization, which means holding the switch at full open and full close positions for several seconds on each window. That process also temporarily disables the anti-pinch safety feature, which creates a genuine safety concern until you complete the reset properly. But the biggest risk is masking real problems that need attention. NHTSA data shows approximately 30% of check engine light activations relate to potential safety issues, and a flashing check engine light versus a steady one indicates serious problems like misfires or overheating that cause significant damage when ignored. One repair shop made the point clearly, stating that resetting erases critical data that helps mechanics diagnose issues faster and more accurately, and without that information, diagnosis becomes expensive guesswork. Here's where things get genuinely complicated for anyone driving a newer vehicle. Cars equipped with intelligent battery sensors, which became common starting in the early 2000s, require something called battery registration when you swap in a new battery. The sensor monitors voltage, current, temperature, state of charge, and state of health, constantly adjusting the charging strategy as your battery ages. Installing a new battery without registration means your car continues charging at the rate appropriate for an aged battery, and that leads to overcharging that can destroy a brand new battery within 1 year. Premature alternator failures from improper registration show up in repair records regularly. The brands requiring registration include BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, Mini, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Mazda. Self-learning systems that generally skip registration requirements include Toyota, Honda, Subaru, and Volvo. The reliable rule works like this. If your vehicle has stop-start technology or an intelligent battery sensor, registration is probably mandatory. Hybrid and electric vehicles add high-voltage safety risks on top of everything else. The 12-volt auxiliary battery still powers electronic systems, but disconnecting without proper procedures creates genuine danger. High-voltage systems running 200 to 400 volts or more require specific isolation procedures, and the Ford Maverick Hybrid Owner's Manual specifically warns that disconnecting without waiting causes damage not covered by the vehicle warranty. An OBD2 scanner running $80 to $150 often pays for itself compared to a single diagnostic shop visit costing $50 to $150, and the benefits go beyond just saving money. Scanners preserve all your learned parameters, radio presets, and seat memory while clearing codes in seconds rather than waiting half an hour for capacitors to drain. They also let you read codes before clearing them, which means understanding the actual problem instead of blindly erasing evidence and hoping for the best. Entry-level options handle basic engine code reading and clearing for around $30. Mid-range scanners read ABS, airbag, and TPMS codes, while providing repair reports that explain what you're looking at. European vehicles requiring battery registration need specialized tools that can perform battery coding, saving you the dealer visit that would otherwise cost $70 to $130. One limitation remains absolute no matter what equipment you own. Permanent diagnostic trouble codes cannot be cleared by any scanner or battery disconnect method in existence. These codes stay put until the underlying problem gets fixed, and the vehicle completes verification drive cycles, which serves as a built-in safeguard against erasing evidence of real problems. The OBD2 standard became mandatory in 1996, and the complexity has exploded since then. Today's premium vehicles contain 100 to 150 million lines of code, running on 70 to 100 microprocessor-based ECUs, a long way from the 1978 Cadillac Seville and its 128 bytes of RAM. So does the battery disconnect trick work? Yes, on pre-2010 vehicles with volatile memory storage, after completing legitimate repairs, or when clearing minor glitches like temporary sensor errors that won't repeat. Is it useless? Also yes, for masking real mechanical problems, and on modern European luxury vehicles, where it may reset nothing meaningful while creating anti-theft headaches that strand you in your own driveway. The professional consensus stays consistent. Use this technique after fixing problems, never instead of proper diagnosis. For the 64 million Americans who can't afford unexpected repairs, an $80 OBD scanner represents a smarter investment than repeatedly clearing codes and hoping problems disappear on their own. Because they won't. If this helped you understand your car better, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.